Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any update from Rouse IAS Study Circle. Join the only official Telegram channel of Rouse IAS Study Circle to get the relevant materials and important updates. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the what, why and how of the newspaper analysis from a civil service examinations perspective. So today we are going to discuss The Hindu Delhi edition dated 22nd October 2022. The important topics which are to be discussed have been displayed on your screen and the timestamping of the same has been provided in the description box below. Now this topic has appeared at page number 7 and is in relation to the crisis which coffee industry is facing. As far as the UPSC scheme of syllabus is concerned, this topic falls directly under General Studies paper 1 because it mentions locational factors for primary industries as its important part. Moreover, this topic can also be relevant from the GS3 perspective in the subsection of agriculture. And this is because of the very logic that if you want to learn about the coffee industry, then you obviously must also learn about the coffee plantation. So that is why in today's session, what we are going to learn is what are the various locational factors which affect the industrial distribution of coffee. Then we will also see at the coffee distribution in India as well as across the world. And in the last, we will discuss that what are those various challenges which are being faced by the coffee industry. So now let us begin our discussion in detail. So first of all, because we understand that coffee industry is primarily based on the agricultural raw material as its important source, and that raw material is obviously coffee. So in order to understand the location or distribution of coffee industry, we must also understand the distribution of coffee crop. And in order to understand the distribution of coffee crop, we must understand that what are the various natural growing conditions which are responsible for heavy and healthy coffee production. So first is the temperature parameters. On an average, 15 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius is a good temperature range for the coffee plantation. Moreover, the areas should be such located that there is no direct sunlight on the coffee plant. So the areas which can be favorable are, for example, the southern slopes of the hills, for example, mountains. And because of this temperature range and no direct sunlight, India's peninsular area, for example, certain areas of Karnataka as well as Kerala are well known for the coffee production. Then it comes to the precipitation. It is generally expected that when the average annual temperature is around 100 to 200 centimeters, then it is good for coffee crop. But an important thing is that this rainfall should be well distributed across the year. So it means that it should not be the case that 200 centimeters of rainfall is concentrated within the 1 month and rest 11 months are dry. Even then the average will be 200 centimeters annually. But the situation should be such that this rainfall is well distributed across the year. Next comes the topography. So the well-drained soil having the upland areas as well as sea-facing areas are most suitable for the coffee production. Therefore, for example, the areas of black soil and red soil are very good for the coffee plantation. Next comes the soil. The soil must be nutrient rich and especially in potash as well as organic content. If you closely analyze now all these conditions, for example, the temperature of 15 to 26 degrees Celsius, well distributed precipitation of 100 to 200 centimeter annually, so these are the conditions which are generally met in the tropical areas. However, there are certain local factors also which affect the coffee distribution. For example, the country of Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, the rainfall is not 100 to 200 centimeter, it is just approximately around 50 centimeter because Ethiopia has somewhat semi-arid conditions. Even then the Ethiopia grows enough coffee plants. The reason is that because Ethiopia is surrounded by the sea water. And this sea water provides mist, which in turn provides the required moisture content. So the root reason for the coffee plantation is the availability of moisture. Generally, this moisture comes from the precipitation, but in certain areas like Ethiopia where precipitation is not very high, then there the moisture is also provided by the surrounding sea areas. The next important factor is the labor. So the coffee picking is a very labor intensive job, and hence the coffee industries are also labor intensive industries. Therefore, the labor cost as well as the availability of labor skills are prime determinant factors which will affect the industries to be set up in particular region. And this labor cost is nowadays increasing in India as well as in many other countries. And because of this increasing labor cost, the coffee cost is also increasing. Now, also we have discussed that the coffee is grown in mainly upland areas, generally they are hill areas or the plateau regions. So, in such a rugged terrain, the mechanization is also not very much feasible. Next comes an important factor, that is transportation. Now, a unique property of coffee is that it loses its flavor very quickly. So that is why if we are roasting the coffee, let's say in this particular region, and then we are exporting it to another country, then it might happen that because of the increased travel duration, the coffee might lose its flavor. And therefore, what happens is that in the exporting country, only the preliminary processing is done, and the final roasting is done in the importing country, right? So that is why, in order to reduce this travel time, we must have efficient transportation systems, not just within the national boundaries but also at the international level, because coffee and tea are one of those crops which have a very high demand in the international market also. So that is why domestic as well as international foreign transportation should be streamlined and efficient enough. Now we shall look at certain areas of the coffee production in India as well as across the world. As far as India is concerned, this was the traditional area in which the coffee was grown. So that means that this is the most dominant area. But then there are other states also, for example, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, as well as the northeastern India, where we find certain patches of coffee. When it comes to world, there are some dominant countries. For example, in South America, we have Brazil as well as Colombia, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, etc. Coffee is also grown in Central American countries of Honduras, Panama, Nicaragua, etc. Then obviously we know about the India's potential in coffee. Then when it comes to the Southeast Asian region, we have Vietnam, Indonesia, Laos, Thailand, Philippines. And the coffee is also grown in the Africa as well as certain patches of West Asian region. For example, countries like Ethiopia, Uganda, Kenya, Congo, Liberia, Nigeria, etc. So these are certain dominant areas of coffee production. But now this article has talked about the certain crises and challenges which the coffee industry is facing, and hence we will discuss those challenges also. The first and the foremost challenge is of rising financial costs. That means that the input cost of the coffee as well as the coffee industry is increasing. For example, we have just talked about the increase in the labor cost. Then there are also lack of credit facilities which are provided to the coffee industrialists. The reason is that in order to get credit, you must provide certain collateral. But as far as the developing economies, especially like India, are concerned, most of the coffee producers are from the small and medium enterprises. And many of these coffee producers are from the unorganized sector. So these people specifically do not maintain their books of accounts, they do not organize their whole procedure, and that is why they also lack the collateral which can be guaranteed, against which they can be provided certain loan by the banks. Moreover, in areas where there is facility of the credit by the banks, the rate of interest of these loans are very high, which make it redundant for the small producers to take the loan, and therefore the credit cost is also higher. Then the third cost factor comes in the area of logistics. We all know that India, the logistics cost is around 14 to 60%, and this logistics cost further adds up to the input cost in the coffee industries, which in turn reduces the competitive nature of Indian coffee. The second important aspect is the low productivity. The Indian soils are getting almost exhaust of their natural nutrient base, and that is why their productivity is declined. Especially when we do a comparative analysis with the countries, for example, Vietnam, Indonesia, etc., we find that their productivity in coffee far exceeds the productivity levels of India. The third challenge comes in the terms of foreign competition. Indian coffee lacks in branding, promotion, as well as packaging. Further, because of the rising financial cost, the economic competitiveness is also hurt. The next important challenge is the recent climate change which is happening. Because of this climate change, the rainfall intensity is increasing. There is a variation in the seasonal temperatures as well as the climatic hazards, for example, floods and droughts, are increasing their frequency and intensity. We all know that the waterlogged conditions is not good for the coffee plant. Similarly, high intensity precipitation is also not good. We discussed that it requires a lot of rainfall, but it should be well distributed across the year. So high intensity rainfall in short duration is obviously unhealthy for the coffee crop. But the climate change has increased the erraticity in the climatic patterns and weather patterns. And because of this climate change, the other associated challenge is rise in the pest attacks. Because of the rise of the global warming, the average temperature is increasing, and because of this increase in the average temperature, the pest attacks, diseases are also increasing, which is detrimental for the coffee plantation. So these are the challenges which are talked in this particular article and is hurting the coffee industry. So now let us revise this topic in brief once again. In this topic, initially we discuss various locational factors which affect the coffee industry's distribution. The prime factor is obviously the raw material, and the growing conditions of this raw material comes in terms of tropical climatic conditions having warm temperature, higher well distributed precipitation, as well as certain geological conditions, for example well drained topography as well as nutrient rich soil, are good for the coffee crop. The second important factor comes in terms of labor cost as well as labor skills. And third important factor comes in form of transportation facilities, not just in domestic boundaries but also in the foreign areas. On the basis of these factors, we saw that what are those areas in India as well as world which are dominant in the coffee production. When it comes to India, southern India followed by eastern and northeastern India are more dominant. When it comes to world, the tropical countries, this tropical belt, also known as the coffee belt, is more important. Then in the last we discussed about the various challenges which the coffee industries, especially in India, is facing. These challenges are in terms of rising financial cost, lower productivity, high foreign competition, increasing climate change, as well as pest and disease attacks. Now let us take up this topic for discussion. This topic has appeared at page number 6 as a lead article in today's The Hindu Delhi edition. As far as the UPSC scheme of syllabus is concerned, this topic falls under General Studies Paper 2 Vulnerable section. The reason being, this topic talks about the child pornography and the issues related to it. And as we all know, that children are one of the most vulnerable sections as far as India, or for that matter as far as the world is concerned. So that is why in today's discussion we are going to take up the important dimensions from the perspective of civil service examinations related to child pornography. So there are three important key aspects. First, we all know that child pornography is one of the most dominant and pressing social issues as far as the law and order is concerned. The child pornography not just only impact the fundamental rights of children, but it is a step which deteriorates the society's ethics as well as moral values. In this very sense, it becomes the utmost responsibility of the central as well as state government in order to curb this menace. And for this, there are certain steps which are already being taken by the government. So, first we will discuss those very steps. The first one which is mentioned in today's article is the Operation Megh Chakra. And as a part of Pan-India Operation Megh Chakra, the operation against online circulation and sharing of child sexual abusive material, which is also known as CSAM in short form, was started. A similar operation in 2021 was also started, which was named as Operation Carbon. This was launched by Central Bureau of Investigation, and under this operation several culprits were booked under IT Act 2000. In this very line, there are certain non-governmental organizations as well as civil society organizations which are also taking a lead step in order to curb this particular problem. For example, Aramb India is a Mumbai-based non-governmental organization, and this organization particularly in partnership with IWF, which stands for Internet Watch Foundation, which is an NGO based in UK, has launched India's first online reporting portal in September 2016 to report the images and videos of child abuse. Similarly, the Ministry of Home Affairs has launched a national cybercrime reporting portal in 2018 for filing online complaints. But despite all these steps which are already being taken by government as well as non-government organization, this issue of child pornography is still prevalent in India. And therefore, there are certain best practices which needs to be adopted by our government. There are certain innovative steps which are being taken in other areas of the world. For example, in US, NCMEC, which stands for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is basically a non-profit organization, operates a program which is known as Cyber Tip Line. Under this program, the citizens can give a tip to the government authorities if they come across certain child pornography related content on digital mediums. Similarly, in United Kingdoms, as we have discussed over here, there is an NGO Internet Watch Foundation, which is there to ensure a safe online environment for users with a particular focus on CSAM, child sexual abuse material. Then comes the In Hope, which is a multilateral collaboration. This is a global network of around 50 hotlines, which is made up by 46 member countries, and it provides the public with a way to anonymously report the CSAM. It provides a secured IT infrastructure which is hosted by Interpol and facilitates the exchange of CSAM reports. In this very line, there are certain key recommendations also which is provided by a Rajya Sabha committee. Its first recommendation is in relation to the social media or the online platforms. It says it includes the age restrictions at the stage of account creations, as well as banning of the users posting child exploitation content. The second important recommendation is in relation to the awareness and training programs. And here, the committee says that awareness and training of all the important stakeholders must be done. That is, parents, responders, as well as media persons. For parents, the awareness and training program must be done in order to identify the early signs of child abuse. Similarly, for the responders, the training must be done in order to have child abuse investigations effectively. And for the media persons, they must be trained to properly report on the child exploitation issues and to take care of the rights of the victim as well as the rights of the convicts. The third important recommendation is in relation to the authorities, which is to upgrade the authorities at national as well as state level. And therefore, the committee says that upgraded National Commission on Protection of Child Rights as well as State Commission on Protection of Child Rights should be designated to deal with the issues related to child pornography. Next comes the international collaboration. The committee recommended that India should sign agreements with other countries for sharing information in the dark web investigations. And last but not the least is the recommendation about research and development. And in this very regard, the committee said that the National Crime Records Bureau must mandatorily record and report all the cases of child pornography. So these are certain key recommendations which you people can use in your mains answers as far as the issues related to children vulnerability or particularly child pornography is concerned. Another important grouping which has appeared in today's The Hindu Delhi edition is the FATF. And this has appeared at page number 1 and its continuation has appeared at page number 10. The immediate context in which this grouping has appeared is that Pakistan has come out of the grey list in which it was there for last 4 years. For last 4 years, we were continuously reading about the fact that Pakistan has entered into the grey list of the FATF, but now it has been removed from this particular list, and this is a significant improvement of Pakistan in its financial credibility at the international platform. So in this very regard, we will discuss about the FATF today. Now, FATF stands for the Financial Action Task Force. Now, as the name is suggesting that this organization has to do something with the financial sector. In this very line, now we will go through certain key facts related to the FATF. FATF is again an intergovernmental body which was established in 1989 by G7 countries. Now, India is not the founding member of FATF. However, presently India is member but not a founding member. This FATF was established in Paris, that is France, and the broader objectives of FATF were to set the standards and promote effective implementation of the measures to combat three areas. One is the money laundering, second, terror financing, and third, all those practices which threaten the integrity of international financial systems. Again, I am repeating these. Three things are looked by FATF. One is the money laundering, terror financing, and any practice which threaten the integrity of international financial system. In line with FATF organization, there is one more terminology which is seen frequently in newspapers. That is FATF 40 plus 9. Now what does this numerical digit, that is 40 plus 9, stands for? Now there are 40 recommendations given by FATF against money laundering, as well as in addition to this there are 9 special recommendations against the terror financing. So in all there are 49 recommendations. 40 recommendations are for money laundering and 9 recommendations are for terror financing, and hence the 40 plus 9 terminology appears. Further, if you look at the working process of FATF, FATF conducts the peer reviews of each member to assess the levels of implementation their national policies in order to strengthen the financial system. And if you go by the important listings of FATF, there are two important lists. One is the blacklist and other is the grey list. Now, blacklist consists of those countries or territories which are considered to be uncooperative in international efforts against money laundering and terror financing. That means these countries are straightaway declared that they are not cooperating with the world in order to strengthen the financial system. But the grey list are those countries which in the degree of severity is one lesser than the countries in the blacklist. The grey list are those countries which have strategic deficiencies in their financial system. That is why they are not blacklisted yet. Still, there are certain extra steps which these countries have to take in order to return back to the normal list. And this was the very context of today's news item also. Now, this topic has appeared at page number 10, and the topic reads, "Are the Indian bustards migrating to Pakistan?" So, as the context of this very news article is very clear, in this relation, from the prelims perspective, what we are going to learn is certain key facts from the environmental perspective related to the great Indian bustards. So, this is going to be a factual topic, but very important as far as the prelims examination is concerned. So, as we all know that great Indian bustard is one of the largest flying birds in the world. But for last few years, their population has been declining at a very alarming rate. And that is why they have entered into the critically endangered category as far as the IUCN Red List is concerned. The major reasons for their decline in population is first, the loss of habitat due to higher demographic load, agriculture as well as infrastructure development. Second is these great Indian bustards are low height flying species, and that is why many a times during their flight They come in contact with the electricity transmission lines. Third, there are several stray dogs which are known to attack the bustard's egg and the young ones. So these are the three primary reasons for the decline of great Indian bustard's population. As far as the distribution is concerned, these species were formerly widespread across India and Pakistan. However, at present its population is estimated to be of less than 200 across Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, MP, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. So another important pattern out of all these states are that these great Indian bustards are mainly found in semi-arid areas. As far as the protected areas of these in India is concerned, there are five important areas. First is in the state of Rajasthan, which is the Desert National Park. Second, in Gujarat, where there lies a Nalia Sanctuary in Kutch. Third is Madhya Pradesh, where there is Karera Wildlife Sanctuary. Coming to Maharashtra, there we have Nannaj grasslands, and in Andhra Pradesh, where we have Rolapadu Wildlife Sanctuary. So this shows the distribution of great Indian bustards in various protected areas across these different states. Now, coming to the conservation status, as we have discussed first, that they are critically endangered species as far as IUCN Red List is concerned. And critically endangered species commands highest degree of severity of vulnerability. As far as the India's Wildlife Protection Act 1972 is concerned, this species is obviously in Schedule 1. Further, as far as the CITES is concerned, this species is listed in Appendix 1. This bird is also declared as the state bird of Rajasthan. So these were the key facts related to the great Indian bustards. Now moving towards our last topic. The topic has appeared at page number 12 and the topic reads, Paddy pellet scheme does not account for production cost, says the entrepreneurs. Now, this topic in itself is not very much relevant, but the associated dimension with this topic is very important. Because in recent times, the government is providing subsidy on the crop residue management machineries to the farmers. Moreover, the government is also taking various policy initiatives in order to promote twin objectives. First objective is, as it is shown, the crop residue management, and the second objective is to depollute the industrial emissions. So in this very regard, the government is taking several steps. For example, the government has come up with the paddy pellet scheme, and according to this scheme, what the government is trying to aim is that whatever the crop residue which is left over after the paddy crop is harvested, the entrepreneurs can make pellet out of that residue, and then these pellets can be used in the thermal plants because they have very high calorific value as well as they also account for lesser industrial emissions. So from this very topic, there are two important key things which you people must understand from the examinations perspective. One is the concept of co-firing, and second is the mission Samarth. So those people who are regularly watching our DNS, they must be knowing that we have covered the concept of co-firing as well as Samarth mission in our DNS dated 4th October 2022. So you are requested to go back to this particular DNS and understand that what is meant by co-firing and what are the important components of the Samarth mission. With this, we end today's session. Happy Dhanteras to all of you, and in advance, a very clean and green and enjoyable Deepavali. All the very best.